Sometimes I find the internet to be just such an unserious place, despite the fact that we're out here talking about news and trying to have semi serious conversations about video games, which arguably video games aren't that serious to begin with, but we do this stuff for fun. It's a hobby, it's good times, and we just enjoy playing games and talking about games. And that does mean there's going to be online conversations, especially lately when we've had a lot of online conversations around pricing, both of consoles, games, accessories, even the amiibo, right? That's a type of accessory from Nintendo. Although now the amiibo are starting to get bigger and higher quality. I don't know if that's trying to justify the price increases. Beats the hell out of me. But what we do know is that pricing has been a kind of a interesting, not even taboo, just a very fundamental conversation point here over the last year. And one of the conversation points has been around game key cards, around $80 price points on certain games, Nintendo charging some Switch 2 editions at $80, or hey, technically if you get like the Switch 2 edition of Tears of the Kingdom, or no, sorry, it's Breath of the Wild, it doesn't include the DLC. So you spend your, $70 or whatever on that Switch 2 edition, then $20 extra DLC makes it $90 for the complete version. I am with many people on a lot of these criticisms, especially with Nintendo and how they're pricing things and lobbying that criticism towards them. But what I also am all for is the truth and honesty in these conversations. And maybe things need to be happening on the internet at times when we talk about some of these games where we need to stop being sticker shocked when we see a price point announced for a given platform, in this case, for a game coming to Switch 2, and instead realize that that sticker shock shouldn't exist, since that's literally what it costs everywhere else. This does not mean that the company releasing this game is not free from criticism. In fact, you should be lobbying all your complaints towards them. It's just that these complaints should have existed long before this announcement happened. And what are we talking about? Well, we're talking about Elden Ring Tarnished Edition on Nintendo Switch 2, because it now has a couple of retail listings which include a price point. Now, we kind of knew for a while this was going to be a game key card, but now we see the full price, and that is leading to even more discourse online. Lots of people using it to attack Nintendo, which I find to be utterly ridiculous. That doesn't even make logical sense. That is just bitching to bitch. You want to blame everything at Nintendo's feet. Really, it should be put at Bandai Namco's feet, and frankly, you maybe shouldn't be as upset as it is, because you shouldn't be surprised. Or if you are upset, then you should have already been upset the whole time. And I'm not talking about Nintendo fans, because individual Nintendo fans may only play on Nintendo and not be aware of the price points everywhere else. But a lot of the conversations and a lot of the shit talking are coming from people that very publicly and openly own other platforms and have played Elden Ring on those platforms. So we got to talk about this, because the conversation is just, man, the internet is such a ridiculous place. It's hard to take anything seriously that people say. Everyone is so focused on individual agendas. It gets old. But we're going to talk about it anyways, and it's going to begin after I remind you we are giving away a Nintendo Switch 2. You can go ahead and enter to win one down in the pinned comment or the description. And without further ado, let's just get into the base story here, because I already know how this is going to come across. But let's talk about this. I am a Nintendo content creator, right? I have Nintendo in my username because thankfully Nintendo hasn't made me change it. They might make me change it someday. But either way, this is the Nintendo Prime YouTube channel, and a lot of the internet will tell you I am a massive shill for Nintendo and that I will defend everything that they do. And look, guys, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I don't have my biases. We all have our biases. It doesn't matter how often I criticize Nintendo or have even criticized over game key cards. All of that's to the aside, because people will just want to find quotes or video clips where I defend some of Nintendo's practices, because I actually look at Nintendo differently than most consumers. I've been this way pretty much since I started doing independent work and freelance work and making money in this hobby, because I started running my own business and paying these separate taxes and starting to realize that there's a lot that goes into running a business. It's not just, look, obviously as a consumer, we want things to be cheaper. We want things to be more reachable and approachable. Like, I would love if Switch 2 was like $200 and video games were like no more expensive than $20 a pop. And I'm not against all of that, but I understand when you're running a business, things like that aren't always part of the conversation because it can't always be realistic to run a business and have the prices be at that level, especially on a global scale. And look, I'm very small time. Like, I'm struggling more as a business than Nintendo is, right? Nintendo's very healthy as a business, but I'm very small time. So even my small understanding pales in comparison to what it's like to run a multi-billion-dollar corporate entity. So I try to be a bit understanding from the business side when I talk about this stuff, which most consumers are not. In fact, most consumers say, fuck the business, and I understand that stance. But the reason that I don't take that stance is simply because without the business, we don't have the things that we enjoy to begin with. But that doesn't mean I agree with all the decisions made. I don't think we should be paying for online, like, at all. I'm not talking about like NSO service. If they want to offer that as a subscription service, whatever, that's their right. Actually, it's their right to do whatever they're doing with NSO. But the ability to play video games online that you bought and paid for, I don't think should be behind a service. I'm a big advocate of it being free. It used to be free on Nintendo for a long time. It's still free on PC. But PlayStation, Nintendo, and Xbox all charge you for the right to basically access your own internet, since most of the games that you're playing are peer-to-peer, meaning they're hosted on each other's systems, not hosted on a grander game server. Now, something like World of Warcraft, maybe a bit of an exception, but that doesn't matter. That's a PC game. I don't really fundamentally get why this just became a normalized thing. I know Xbox started it, then PlayStation, and now Nintendo followed suit. And it's unfortunately just a byproduct of, hey, if you want to play these games, there is an extra cost to play them, especially online. You buy Splatoon and you're planning to play online, you know there's an extra cost associated with that every single month or year if you pay by year. Now, thankfully, Nintendo's is quite cheap, but that doesn't mean that I like it. I sort of regrettably pay for that subscription every single year because I probably wouldn't have it if they didn't lock online behind it. I don't use the NSO like consoles, the old school systems. I don't use them often enough to justify paying for a year subscription, but I do justify it because, hey, I just put multiple people on my account. We try to make it seem like it's cheaper, blah, blah. But in the end, you're still paying to play online, and I just don't like that. But it's regrettably become so normalized that if I want to play some of the games that I want to play, it's just what I'm going to have to do, regardless if it's Xbox, PlayStation, or Nintendo. And it sucks, but for the most part, I could accept it to a degree. Like, accept it as in I will begrudgingly pay it. It's not a straw that's going to break my back. Nor are game key cards a straw that's going to break my back. I accepted an all digital future back when I went all digital on PC like 20 plus years ago. So look, I'm not going to sit here and act like I agree with everything Nintendo does. They should have messaging on their systems right now. They should not have a policy where they can brick your consoles, regardless of that policy being around since the Wii. I don't believe Nintendo should have some of the game prices and the accessory prices where they are. But in the end, I don't run the business, and because I don't run the business, I don't have all the information on why these decisions are made. What I do have information on, though, is Elden Ring Tarnished Edition, because it has sparked a ton of backlash. Why? Well, because of this. It's available on Amazon, also Best Buy. Elden Ring Tarnished Edition, Switch 2 Edition is being sold for $79.99, so $80 US. Don't worry about the delivery date and all that. Those are all just placeholders. They don't actually have the release date here. But you can see it's a game key card, and the Tarnished Edition does include the full game plus the DLC. And this has led to a lot of people saying F Nintendo, or this is absolutely ridiculous. I can't believe that they would charge this much for this. How could they do this when it's a game key card? And then you go around and you look, and well, turns out maybe we shouldn't be as mad as you think. In fact, maybe this price point should have been expected, because when we hop over to PlayStation, if you want to buy the standard edition plus the DLC together, it's $80. Sure, you can get it on sale right now, just the standard edition, for $38.99. But then if you want to buy the DLC on its own, well, they don't have it listed here, but it's actually $40. You end up spending $80 anyway. So look at this right now on this is the PlayStation Store. You can see this at the top, PlayStation logo on the PlayStation Store. It is $80 to get the exact same version of the game that they just gave the price point for on Switch 2. So where's the backlash over that? Oh, you know what? Maybe it's because PC, right? PC is known for having sales all the time, and absolutely, these games have been on sale a number of times, but what's the price right now? What are we talking about right now? Oh, look, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree Edition, which is the base game plus the DLC. Oh, it's $80 right now on Steam. So it's the same price. So why are we having all these bad reactions to the Switch 2 version being the same price as every other version? Where was this backlash this entire time? It's like it doesn't exist because guess what? It's old news that it's $80 on the other platforms. Very interesting. Now you might go, well, Nate, you're comparing digital versions versus a game key card, which I could argue is actually the correct comparison because a game key card is just a digital version of a game you could physically resell because you could resell the physical license key. That being said, fine. Let's just go with physical versions because some of the complaints are obviously that, you have to have a download required key cards. They're bullshit. And for $80, it's bullshit. Yeah, you know what version also requires downloads? In fact, you literally, like, to have the full game, you know what requires a download? How about the Shadow of the Erdtree Edition physical? First off, yes, you're seeing it here cheaper for Xbox at $62. Showing a sale. We all know physical versions have individual retailers decide to do things. But then you see the PlayStation 5 version is $96 because guess what? It's sold out and not being restocked. So you're going to have to end up buying a used copy. So here's the thing. Shadow of the Erdtree is not available in full physical format with the original Elden Ring game anywhere. There is not a complete edition of Elden Ring that includes Shadow of the Erdtree on a physical format. Now, it is weird because this is the first game, I believe, released by From Software that did not eventually, and this could change in the future, but eventually have a complete version where everything's on disc. So getting Elden Ring and getting Shadow of the Erdtree, them not being complete on disc, requiring downloads, that ends up meaning that this game does not exist in a full physical format anywhere when you include the DLC. So what does this mean in the end? It means we're bitching about something that just doesn't exist anywhere else, right? There is no full physical of this combo anywhere. And on top of that, we're bitching about a price point that is the same price as everywhere else. So what are we doing? What is the internet doing right now? Why is this suddenly a Switch 2 problem? Why is this suddenly, a Nintendo problem? Look, if you're upset about it, obviously lob some criticism towards From Software. They're not going to change their mind, of course, but you can lob some criticism towards them and ask for better pricing. Again, I agree. I think it shouldn't be $80 right now, but it is. And look, am I going to sit here and say if you've never played Elden Ring and this is your first time playing it, that it isn't worth $80 for the full game plus DLC? I will never say that because the quality of the game is top notch. It's literally one of the best video games ever released. I mean, something of all time, I'll at least say in the past decade, right? In the last decade, it's one of the best games to release. Yeah, I'm not going to say you're not going to get $80 of value out of that experience. The Erdtree DLC, by the way, is actually quite beefy, too. It's not one of those crappy DLCs. So you actually get a lot for your money regardless. I mean, I think Thunderstash on the podcast yesterday said if you 100% the game, it's like 72 cents an hour or something. Look, I'm not going to sit there and talk about that. I know most people don't 100%, but it is a point of value when you're looking at money compared to time played or money compared to how much fun you're having. I don't like doing money compared to time played. I like to do it based on how much fun you're having. Like you pay more per hour to go to a movie, but you might enjoy that movie to a point that makes that, $8 to $15, $20 you spent or whatever worth it. Now, obviously, additional costs with concessions and all that is going to vary person to person. Some people don't do any concessions. Some people, we all know, sneak concessions in and a few snacks in a purse. Some people obviously only get a soda, and some people will splurge and get the big, large popcorn, candy, and whatever for $20 to $30 or whatever it costs at your local theater. I'm not here to tell you because maybe you just don't go to movies that often, but you like the full experience. You are nostalgic for that popcorn and all that. I love it too. Okay, I don't think I can really go to a movie at a movie theater without getting popcorn, to be honest. It's just the way it's meant to be done. You go to the big theater, you're supposed to have your popcorn, you're supposed to get your drink. I guess a soda for me. I've done water a couple times, but soda, because it's just nostalgic. That's what it was for me growing up. But here's the thing. I do think that this is just getting a little ridiculous. I do agree that I wish the base game was on a physical cartridge. But it wouldn't change the fact that download would still be required to play the entire thing. So And I also don't know if the base game can fit on the 64 gigabyte physical cartridges. I think it's a little bit over 65 gigs on some other platforms, but we obviously don't know file sizes at this point, so I can't really speak to that. We only can work with the knowledge we have at the moment because there isn't an eShop listing giving us that file size yet. I assume that will change here. In fact, the fact that we're seeing these retail listings sort of tells me there's either an announcement coming that's just about Elden Ring soon on social media, or possibly even a partner direct where this could be one of the things featured in it. See all new footage of it. Well, all new for Nintendo. And then obviously, give us the price point, the release date, all that jazz. And if your issue is that you can't buy the standard edition on its own, again, your issue would then be with From Software, not with Nintendo, because From Software is the ones that's making the decision to only release the Tarnished Edition, which is the same as the Shadow of the Erdtree Edition on other consoles, and not give us the base game on its own for cheaper. The base game, by the way, is $60, although you did see it was on sale on PlayStation at the moment. Now, those digital sales are determined by From Software. The physical sales, unless publicly announced, are all individual retailers. And the physical hasn't even released technically at retail yet for Switch 2. So who knows, a month or 2, 3 months later, if they might be running some digital sales on it as well. We're already seeing Ubisoft and other games get digital sales. We're already seeing Ubisoft and other games out there getting some physical sales at retailers, because retailers can determine their own sales to push, inventory out the door that's sitting on the shelf too long, or maybe just to encourage you to shop here, and then, hey, maybe you'll buy some other stuff, and they make all of their margins and money through the other products you end up buying, not necessarily the one you showed up for. It's a very common tactic at retail. Sell something that it feels like too good to be true deal, and then obviously hope they buy other stuff because you created customer loyalty. It's kind of the Walmart strategy, or maybe just basic business and basic, 101. It feels really basic to me. That said, I think that the discourse around this game is just hitting a point that is just not healthy and kind of stupid. I made a comment today that I want to share over on Twitter, and it's being interpreted in a very specific way, which I really enjoy the way that some people are interpreting it. But the people that are interpreting it that way are people that are literally just trolling. But I do find it funny. So I put here, so the discourse around the $80 Elden Ring plus DLC price on Switch 2 is fascinating. We talked about this a little on the podcast last night. I think it's perfectly fine if you want to complain and think it's too high. I tend to agree. $80 for this package is a bit much. But even if it's $20 cheaper than when you bought the original game and the DLC separate, which it is. The original game was $60, the DLC was $40. So for people, when this DLC first dropped, if you bought the game at launch, you're talking about spending $100. So it is technically cheaper than that. But also buying them together is $80 on every platform right now. Country dependent. Obviously, I'm focused on the US. So the price criticism shouldn't be about the Switch 2 itself, but rather, in general, them keeping the game plus DLC this price everywhere. That said, if I see one more game keycard complain about this game when it's literally not complete on disc on any platform and requires a download everywhere, I'll just be done with the internet today. That sentence there is being taken out of context by some. It's funny because it's funny how text is read and how people interpret it. Obviously, certain people are going to be like, oh, so if I mention thinking about game keycard, Nate's going to just stop being on the internet today, which is not what I said. I never said I'd stop being on the internet. I said I'd be done with the internet, and I meant done taking the internet seriously. I intentionally left out that seriously part just to see how people would interpret this, because I had a gut feeling, and sure as shit, they did it that way. Anyways, no 2 or 3 wrongs don't make a right. But again, it's not a Switch 2 specific problem. They are consistent across devices. And what I'm trying to say is if you have an issue with these things, take those issues to From Software, because they are just treating all of us the exact same regardless of platform. It's not a Nintendo issue. And that's really what I was trying to get at here. And this entire video, look, Shadow of the Erdtree, Elden Ring, if you think it's worth the $80 and you want to buy it day one, cool. You want to double dip if you already own it, cool. You think it's too expensive and don't want to buy it, cool. You want to bitch it From Software, cool. I just don't think that this bitching should, it feels like it's coming out of nowhere over something we already knew. And this is the thing that makes me feel like, and I'm not going to say any individual here, but it makes me feel like a lot of people on the internet are just ignorant. Feels weird saying that out loud. I think I've felt this way for a while, the longer I've been doing this YouTube stuff. But It's not that the complaints aren't valid. It's that the complaints should have been happening, and it shouldn't be happening just because of Nintendo having the price announced. Because it's the same price everywhere. So either consistently bitch at From Software about not lowering the price of the game everywhere, or just shut up. Oh, it's because it's a game key card. Guess what? It's not complete on disc anywhere. Download required everywhere. Oh, well, at least the standard edition. Well, guess what? From Software didn't release just a standard edition on Switch 2, as far as we're aware. Again, not a Nintendo problem. I think this sucks because I agree with some of the criticisms over the price point, but I also don't think we should be having such a big reaction to it over the last 24 hours because it's the same price everywhere. And you weren't bitching about it then. You're bitching about it now because it's Nintendo. Can we just be honest here? The bitching is because it's on a Nintendo platform, and we have to find a way to bitch because it's Nintendo. We can't ever just bitch because, hey, this is actually the price everywhere, and that price isn't okay. So we'd like to see it lowered across the board. No. Specifically, because it's a game key card that requires a download, which so do the other versions of this combo. And, it's $80 just like it is everywhere else. We got a bitch. I can't, man. I can't with the internet sometimes. And that's what I meant by that comment, that I'm just done with the internet today. I'm not done being on the internet. It's my job. I have to be here. But I am done taking, I would say, a majority of the internet seriously. I'll give one little comment example. This was a guy who tried to gotcha me here. This 8-bit ninja guy, I can't believe they're selling a game key card for $80. It's ridiculous. Okay, you can leave now. Said, cool. Hold your criticism across the board then, because they're charging $80 for a complete like this, not on Discord card anywhere. You can't find this complete in a physical format anywhere. So what's not believable? They're charging $80 when that's what they charge. By the way, I'm taking this comment too seriously, which I should have never done. Or that it's a game key card, aka a fake physical that requires a download to play, when that's exactly how this version works on every platform. So what I mean about the complaints, why is the price in game key card a problem here, but when it's the same everywhere else? Because guess what? People aren't bitching about the price anywhere else. They're only bitching about it on Nintendo. And so I thought you were going to log off. Never use the word log off, but it's funny how people interpret things. I said, did I say I would log off? No, I'd be done with the internet. That means I'm done taking it seriously. When you make asinine comments like yours, it means nothing can be taken seriously because the comments are unserious and ridiculous. Be a man, stick to your word otherwise. Be a man, engagement feels well. You're so full of shit. And you're just an example of why the internet can't be taken seriously. Says why? Because you're afraid now or what? Like, this is what I mean. This is what I'm talking about. Just idiotic behavior on the internet and ignorance. Like, these complaints shouldn't exist because of Nintendo. They should exist because this is the way it is everywhere. But it's not being bitched about everywhere. No one's yelling at From Software to lower the price on PlayStation, Xbox, and PC, but they're all screaming it about the Nintendo version. So you tell me, what's the difference here? What's the difference? And how is any of it Nintendo's fault? Why are we bitching just because a game's releasing on Nintendo at the same price as it is everywhere else? You tell me. I just think the internet is ignorant. That or the internet has a massive anti-Nintendo agenda. Maybe both. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next video.